right, I think we can get started. Can people hear me all right? Can I get a thumbs up in the chat? Yeah, perfect. Okay, so I'll spare everyone the salesy introduction since we all know each other here. But as you know, Nebulab and Bolt have partnered last year to make Bolt the preferred checkout solution for Saldos brands. And if you haven't heard about Bolt, they're a tech company that powers the checkout of retailers such as Forever 21, Fanatics, Casper, and Revolve. Bolt's checkout lead to a 47% higher conversion rate compared to traditional guest checkouts. And so I'm very excited to have the Bolt team today to tell you a little bit more about what they're doing. So without further ado, let me give the stage to the Bolt team. And Adam, I think I just invited you.
Okay. Hi.
Hello.
Great. Well, thanks so much. Thanks, Alessandro. Thanks to the Nebulab team for giving us the forum today to talk about Bolt. Introducing myself, Adam Hunt, Director of Business Development on our partnerships team. And I work with platforms and systems integrators across the e-commerce ecosystem. I'm going to pass the stage to Phil Langer, who's our VP of Growth Sales, and he's going to lead us through the presentation today. We also have Wayne Chang from our Solutions Engineering team as well, who's going to give a Bolt demonstration. So how do I pass the stage?
I just invited Phil to join.
Okay, great.
Apologies, thanks. By the way, this is the first time we use Session, so.
My first time as well.
Also inviting Wayne. Hello.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Can. Okay, great. Now I have to figure out how to share something. Give me 1 second.
I think it's the button in the center of the toolbar at the bottom of the screen.
There we go. Are we seeing a Bolt presentation? There we go. Perfect. All right, I see little thumbs going up. So appreciate the time today. I'm Phil Langer. I am responsible for our growth sales team, which encompasses basically enterprise accounts through mid-market accounts. So anyone with a GMV call it below 250, 300 million is where we are focused on. So excited to talk to all of you about some of the stuff we've got going on within our customer base and where prospects are leveraging our technology to help them with driving higher conversion. That's primarily the main play, and providing a better experience for their customers. And we do this through, basically what we provide is this one-click expedited checkout. There's a lot of what I'll call sophistication in the back end that makes it happen with how we recognize shoppers, identify them, and then basically create a frictionless buying experience. There's a lot of value add with how we do it. And I just want to talk through some of the different kind of points around the solution at a high level to give you all an understanding of kind of where we fit, why people are looking at Bolt, and if you've got customers or prospects that are looking for solutions to try to get higher conversion out of their checkout flow, Bolt's a great place to start and have a conversation around. So I'm going to go through just a demo, a Bolt overview. Then we're going to have Wayne, who is one of our senior engineers here, go through a demo, show you the experience. We'll talk a little bit about the top line lift that we see for customers, so you get an idea of kind of the conversion expectations we typically would set. A few case studies, and then go around kind of what the prospect fit of where we play and what people are looking at. So the overview. So I'll keep it kind of short and simplified. I mean, what we're really doing, and this is an example of the desktop conversion with one click, is expediting that flow where a shopper only has to remember essentially their email address, and sometimes only have to remember that. The browser can keep you logged in, so when you show up, we even recognize you without you entering in your email address, and take you from once you add a cart and click checkout, right to the final page where your information is filled in, your shipping, your credit card. The only thing you need to do is buy now. If we haven't seen you in a while and we need to authenticate you, we'll send you an OTP, just a one-time password via your phone. We can also send it via email if need be, but most of the time the phone is the quickest way. And what's really cool is, because we've got this network of shoppers, if a merchant sells Bolt and I've never shopped there before and I show up, basically with my Bolt account, I don't even have to know, basically I'm leveraging my Bolt account. It just speeds me through the checkout process like I've been there before. And in doing so, when I check out, I actually end up creating an account on that merchant's site when I go through the checkout as well. So for the merchant, they get an expedited checkout, which leads to higher conversion, and they get an account created that they can then remarket to, as well as make that seamless approach when the customer or when the shopper lands back on their site. So, and again, the cool thing is the only thing that the shopper is really remembering is their one email address. Makes for a very simplified process. So, the way that we're currently selling this is, we call it our accounts package. We're in the process of kind of finalizing how we really brand this correctly. But I think for this group, this is, probably the best way to kind of frame what we're actually providing, which is, we're providing the merchants the ability to recognize the shopper's account, whether they have it or not. If it's in our network, we'll be able to recognize them on landing. It creates this logged in experience. If we haven't seen them, we basically pass them through during the guest process, and we'll create the account and allow us to really create a nice repeat shopping experience when they come back. So all without creating a password. When you create a Bolt account, you're not creating a password. We'll tie it to your device. We've got an OTP. It makes it very easy for the shopper to continue buying stuff within this kind of Bolt network ecosystem, without having to remember my username, my login. And then similarly, we can create that experience for the merchant so that when the shoppers are showing up, they're essentially able to log in without username, password. So basically enables the merchant and the shopper a more simplified way to basically connect closer without having to remember a whole bunch of information and search for that username, password, credit card addresses as they go through a shopping experience. So in our accounts package, what we've actually done is we basically created a gray label solution where we can go under the covers into the merchant's existing checkout. And why this is so key is this enables, especially when we get to larger merchants, they don't want to give up kind of their checkout flow. They've got an existing flow, but that kind of last mile of optimization beyond some of the other, what I'll call kind of PayPal buttons, buy now, pay later buttons, is how do I get more out of that checkout button? And what Bolt's able to do is basically embed itself into that checkout button flow and recognize shoppers as they go through the native checkout. You basically turn that checkout button into an express button, where we're either recognizing them, speeding them through. If we don't recognize them, we're helping create an account so the next time we speed them through. And you really have to kind of opt out to not go through a kind of optimized checkout flow and be like a pure guest account. We see significantly high conversion of guest shoppers to registered shoppers, about 50% plus. And then, our cross network pollination is 20% plus as well. So you end up with, when deploying this in this accounts package, we gobble up a lot of that guest and turn it from basically anonymous shopping to the potential for merchants to convert these to lifetime shoppers. And then basically when a Bolt shopper showing up, they convert at a 70% plus clip. So the more Bolt shoppers you get going through your checkout, the higher conversion lift you're going to see, because effectively, if I've got 100 people coming in and 30-40% are already Bolt shoppers or repeat shoppers, those are converting at 70% plus. So it provides a pretty significant conversion lift, and not to mention a better customer experience and more accounts that you can go remarket to as a merchant. So, and then one of the real cool things is the way that we're creating these accounts within both the Bolt account as well as within the merchant's account. So, if I'm a guest, I show up, basically I click right through, buy something. I'll be asked to, basically there'll be a little check mark at the bottom saying, you want to create an account for faster return shopping experience. And so this is with all of the Bolt customers that are doing this. So what this does is creates an account within, the cross-pollination network, also creates an account in the merchants network. So, and again, this is passwordless. So there's no taking you to a username and password, sending you an email to confirm. This is very quickly just going through the natural purchase, sending you an OTP, and you've not only bought, but you've created an account in both ecosystems, and you'll be remembered. You'll get that login experience when you return. And our kind of tagline is turning these casual shoppers into lifetime customers, which we feel like is the true value of what you're trying to do with making this a much cleaner experience as they're purchasing. So another thing that we've done is we've kind of in the background, we've got a fraud offering. I always mention it because it's kind of tied to, because we're seeing the entire checkout flow, we can really improve the overall approval rates and acceptance rates, because a portion of it's already coming from a network, which we already know if they're legitimate shoppers or not. But we also, just because we see a lot of the checkout flow, we can do some unique things before you even get in kind of the review of the auth. So it's a nice add-on. It's not required for the accounts package, but I always try to bring it up because it does make a nice kind of seamless connectivity within the overall solution. And then, what's really powering this is, this network of shoppers that we've created. And, we've started to launch some pretty significant brands with Fanatics, Revolve, Casper, Touch Modern, and they bring a lot of shoppers to the network, and those shoppers then become future one-click shoppers on merchants that are deploying Bolt in the future or already have deployed. So it creates this experience for the shopper where I'm showing up on sites, I can be recognized without ever having bought anything at that site or signing up for that site, in creating a streamlined experience, which provides a tremendous value to the merchant, makes it so much easier to shop, for the consumer, because, I suspect most of this phone have been in shopping on your phone or online, and you realize, oh, I left my wallet downstairs, or I forgot the password to the site. I know I bought something there before, and all those things that kind of create drag and get you to purchase a couple of days later or not purchase at all, or you end up buying on some other site, you end up on an Amazon. This helps short circuit that, so that you eliminate a lot of that risk, because we're connecting this network to the actual merchants themselves. So, and I like to just show this slide because it just gives you a difference in a Bolt one-click shopper or a Bolt shopper versus a regular old guest shopper, in that, what we see is we just don't see the fall off basically until because we skip all those steps in the middle that people have to fill out, remember, even auto-populate. We're basically skipping all the risks of shipping and figuring out the shipping method and the address, the payment details. What credit card am I going to use? Do I have the right 3-digit code on the back? Did I remember that? Skip all of that. And we see a significant less drop off and 70% plus conversion of Bolt one-click shopper. So the secret success is the more Bolt the more shoppers that I can get showing up on your site, the higher conversion you're going to lead to. And we've had some great success stories with, and the cool thing is we can actually activate the merchant shoppers, so we can turn them on day one. We recently had a customer, they activated their shoppers, and like day one, they were getting 44% of their entire transactions as Bolt transactions, one clicks. And it grew in the first like 2 weeks, like 57%. Their overall conversion like skyrocket, their overall to like 70%. So not just the Bolt shoppers, but like their overall. So pretty powerful what we can do when you kind of leverage the full stack of how you can link accounts, make accounts ready for one click, and then fast forward that expedited checkout experience. So, we're doing some really exciting stuff, and we're just kind of at the beginning of our journey of maximizing this customer experience and fast forwarding through the checkout. So now I don't know how I will stop sharing, Wayne, so that you can grab the ball.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. Let me go ahead and share my screen. And nice to meet everybody here. Let me see. Okay, share entire screen, and then I'm gonna share my screen number 3. Cool. All right, guys. Can I just get a quick confirmation that everybody can see my screen? You should see a Lucky Brands shopping cart.
Yep.
Perfect. Sounds good. All right, guys. So, like what Phil mentioned earlier, right? There are several aspects of the shopping journey that Bolt solution can help with, right? The first and the key part that we want to focus on is this, checkout abandonment rate. Or how do we make it quicker for the shopper to go from checkout to pay? So the scenario is this: the first demo I'm going to show you, the first experience I'm going to show you, is actually our checkout package. So this is when Bolt completely takes over a merchant's checkout process. What you're going to see here is that a shopper has already gone ahead and added an item to the cart. Now the shopper is going to go ahead and press checkout. Now, traditionally, when the shopper clicks on checkout, they will still have to go through a long form of checkout forms, right? To fill out necessary information such as shipping address and credit card information. And the worst part about that is a lot of times people are shopping when they're comfortably sitting in a couch or in their bed. They don't want to get up to go find their credit card. And they always think, okay, yeah, I'll come back to fill this out later, but they never do. That's when the merchants mostly see their checkout abandonment. That's the reasoning behind it. As you just saw, the idea behind Bolt is that we will completely take over the checkout process. But the key part here is that if the shopper is authenticated, logged into Bolt, all their information is pre-populated. The most important part is this credit card information, which Bolt is tokenizing using our PCI compliant tokenizer. And the goal behind this is that whichever Bolt network site the shopper goes to, they will be able to reuse that credit card again and again. So then for the shopper, they can quickly review the order and then press pay to complete that transaction. As you can see, right, a typical checkout process is about, a minute and a half, 2 minutes. We significantly reduce that time down to less than 10 seconds. And this is how our partners have seen a huge increase in terms of conversion rates. Take a quick pause there for a second. We want to get the team's first impression or any questions about the checkout package. Again, in the checkout package, this is where Bolt completely takes over the checkout process for the merchant.
Yeah, Wayne, I think it might be interesting to also highlight the fact that you support additional payment methods besides credit card.
Absolutely. Thank you. Great question. So another value proposition to merchants is that, as you guys know, there's a huge popularity increase, right? In terms of buy now pay later. We typically group those into what we call APMs, alternative payment methods. So we have already done the heavy lifting in terms of integrations into several alternative payment method vendors such as PayPal, Klarna, Affirm, Afterpay, Amazon Pay, Sezzle, you name it. The idea behind that is, as a merchant, right? If they want to, let's say tomorrow, Lucky Brands wants to try out Sezzle, for example, right? They can establish that commercial relationship with Sezzle, but for the technical perspective, right? they can quickly go to our backend dashboard and then get that alternate payment method enabled. So instead of spending weeks, if not months of time to integrate with those alternate payment methods, right? We make it down to less than few minutes. Simply go into our merchant dashboard, type in their merchant credential, and then they will be able to enable that payment option for their shoppers. Any other questions on the managed checkout solution? No. Yeah, feel free to type in the questions in the chat as well. I can get back to the chat in a few as well. Now, the next experience that I want to show you is the account package that Phil mentioned earlier. Let me bring in another browser here. The idea behind this account package is that we have seen some of the merchants that we work with, right? They like their own checkout, right? So they kind of want to keep their own checkout experience, which is totally fine within the account package. What you're going to see here is that, for example, Casper, they kept their own checkout experience, and they just simply implement both technology underneath it, just so that they can then introduce that one-click checkout experience for their shoppers. So how it works is here, as the shopper types in their email, Bolt is sitting underneath it to verify whether or not that person has a Bolt account or not. If that person has a Bolt account, we'll send in a one-time password to authenticate the shopper's identity. Once the shopper is authenticated, essentially what's happening in the background is that Casper's system is able to fetch that person's information from Bolt. And then, of course, they can then just pre-populate all the information for that shopper. So as part of best practice recommendation we'll make is, if the shopper is already authenticated, you have all the necessary information, take them directly to the checkout page, right? So everything's already there for them. Again, similar experience. The shopper can quickly review all the order information as well as payment information and just submit the order. Still keeping that checkout to pay as far as the time down to less than 10 seconds. Again, take a quick pause there for a second, and we'll look to get team's first impression on the accounts package. Happy to address any questions that you may have. Cool. No problem. Feel free to, again, type in any questions that you may have in the chat. I want to show you one more experience. Oh, is there a question? I want to show you one more experience. As you can imagine, right?
Hey, Wayne, there's a question. Why Casper decided to stay with their checkout?
Great question, Alberto. So a lot of merchants that we talk to, right? They may have already spent, UX research into their own checkout. They're proud of their own checkouts, that they do want to keep their own checkout experience. And some other merchants may have customizations that they want to keep in their own checkout experience, right? So those are all typical factors where the merchant may decide to go with the accounts package, over a checkout package. Did I address the question, Alberto?
Yeah, I think it's, as Wayne was saying, I think it's really important to keep it. One of the big benefits to the accounts package is we can basically slide right in and fit within their existing checkout flow. For a lot of the larger customers that have more complex, like Casper's got to deal with specific shipping rules. And then if you buy a mattress in certain states, they have certain recycling rules that need to pop up. So there's a whole bunch of complexity that their checkout flow would have required for us to take it over. And they get a similar lift with just embedding this into their natural checkout flow, which they thought was, quite frankly, more elegant with how they've designed their site. So it's basically our version of kind of gray labeling underneath the covers, but they get the same benefit, which is why we basically have two options where we'll see a customer who's like, I hate my checkout, just fix it and take it over. And then we have others like, I don't mind my checkout flow, but I could do better, and we help them do better. Right.
Also, just to add to what Phil was saying earlier, right? the integration that's required for this accounts package, as you can imagine, right? It's lighter, so it's a quicker time to value. However, those are the same integrations that's required for the checkout package that you saw earlier. So there's certainly merchants that's taking the path of, let's go ahead and use this accounts package first, right? Try it out and see if the shoppers like it, and then with a plan to migrate to the checkout package at at a later phase. So that's certainly a possible option as well, and it's not a wasted work because there are some integrations that's done for this accounts package that's required for the checkout package as well. Let me just report. So good. Glad we were able to answer your question. I was thinking that maybe they also support other payment methods like the Apple Pay. So, but to answer the question, we actually can help enable Apple Pay as well. So that's something like earlier we talked about alternative payment methods. That's something that we can help enable as well. Ryan's question is, with the shipping address to Bolt, what are you using for address validation? I'm wondering if some stores may have specification to meet for their shipping services, shipping labels. Yep. So Ryan, to answer the question, we have a shipping address validation feature as well within our solutions, right? So if the address does not meet or triggers that validation in some sort of error, some sort of message, right? There is a prompt that shows up to tell the shopper that, hey, this address may not be valid or may not be shippable. So those are all part of the solution that we provide to the merchant. Similiano has a question. In the previous example, it was possible to see tax entry in the cart before checkout with Bolt. So we need to call in the cart to fetch some information. How was it possible? Yep, absolutely. So the idea, as far as architecture goes, think of Bolt as this solution that sits between the commerce platform and your payment processor, right? And throughout this entire journey, especially the earlier the checkout package, the idea is that as the shopper is going through each frame within the checkout, within the Bolt modal, Bolt is talking to the commerce platform backend, right, to fetch the necessary information for that particular transaction. So in terms of tax, right, the idea is that once we have the shipping address, we'll send all the information back to the commerce platform, and the commerce platform can, decide and calculate what the tax should be, and then it will pass it back to us. We'll display that for the shopper to see. Okay, cool. Thanks, Dad. Thanks for all the questions. And feel free to continue to typing all the questions in the chat. There's one other feature I want to show you where our merchant finds a lot of value as well. Earlier, Phil mentioned that we're also able to create this passwordless login experience. So this is more top of the funnel. I'm going to pull up a different browser here just so they can see what that experience looks like. So this is on Lucky Brand. A lot of times when we're working with merchants, right, especially larger merchants, right, they do have, a lot of existing accounts. But what they're seeing is even for repeat shoppers, right, they will shop, they will navigate through the site as, guests, right? Because people tend to not want to log in because they have so many different, username and password credentials that they just don't remember what their password is. And because of the fact that they remain as guests, those are all missed opportunities for the merchant to know who the shopper is, right? To be able to create a more targeted, personalized shopping experience for that shopper. What you're going to see here is what we call a single sign-on solution that's passwordless. As a shopper navigates to your site, as you can see that a Bolt login modal will pop up. The shopper can simply type in their email here. A very similar concept. Once the shopper is recognized, we'll send in a one-time password to authenticate that person's identity. Once the shopper is authenticated, they'll be redirected to the page that they were gonna go to. So think of this. In this instance, right? Think of Bolt as this passwordless authentication layer. Really can be enabled or implemented in in all places where there's a potential locking wall where you need to know who the shopper is, and just make it much simpler. With the partners who have implemented this particular feature, they're seeing twice as many locking sections And what that means is just more chances to create a personalized shopping experience, which ultimately leads to a higher conversion rate as well. Any thoughts, any questions from the group here? Do you guys see that this will be a valuable feature for the merchants that you guys work with? Thanks, yeah. Those are all the demos I have today. Happy to address any questions, or we can leave you with my personal email here. If you have any questions that you want to reach out, feel free afterwards as well. Again, I'll be happy to answer those questions via email. We're happy to jump on the call with you guys again.
Cool. Thanks, man. Can you give me the ball back? I'll share a couple of things around conversion and kind of what to look for in prospects.
Absolutely. You should be able to share them.
All right. So, one thing I just wanted to talk about is kind of the top line impact and, give an example of what we see in sort of the apparel industry and how it works. So I like showing this slide because kind of gives you an idea of like how the actual conversion kind of process flows through. So, when we look at like the overall industry apparel conversion rates, it's about 46%. What we see internally is if a Bolt shopper hits the checkout button, they convert at 70% of the time. So, what we'll see, and this is kind of a low estimate, 30% of the shoppers who hit that checkout button end up being Bolt shoppers. Coming from existing, net new, repeat. There's a lot of different ways that they end up in that flow, but overall, this is what we see in of our apparel customers. So that cohort of customers showing up and hitting checkout are converting at 70%. If we just look at the regular old guest checkout, we basically just use the industry average. If they're still converting at 46%, we basically create an overall lift of 53% on their overall conversion, which is a potential lift of 15%. And there's some things you can do to even get this 30% much higher. Like I said, we had some customers that activated their users. So, and that becomes a pretty significant ROI when you look at kind of the delta of how we charge. It becomes pretty significant on the value we can bring to a merchant just by better executing on basically their existing checkout flow. So this isn't bringing new Bolt customers. This isn't highlighting remarketing. This is just being much more efficient with the people who are hitting your checkout button. And you can see some pretty significant results. And when we start talking about some of the case studies, we've got, basically we deploy on any of the platforms except for Shopify. Got a large list of customers. And again, these are all creating what I would call accounts, creating that cross-pollination of that one-click conversion. And that's why, we see such a higher conversion rate. And the other thing is interesting is, our network, when we look at the demographics, they're like shoppers. They like to create an account and they like to shop and they like to buy stuff. And we see it across where they have a higher AOV across all of the different industries that we're in. When we start talking about like prospects, when merchants are looking for what I'll call help, there's three basic areas where they start to bring up, how can you help me with checkout? I need to create more accounts. I'm looking for a better conversion. Yes, these all play together, but these are typically areas that bring us into a conversation. And they're, the initial conversation is typically, how can you help me with my checkout? How can you help me create more accounts and logged in experience? And then how do I make more money? And I think for all of you on the phone, if you're running into customers that are looking for help with basically any of these three things, I mean, that's what Bolt is in the business of helping customers fix and maximize to gain more sales and create a better customer experience. So, if you're having merchants that are looking for these types of issues to solve, or they have it on their roadmap that they're looking to optimize, for these types of issues, it's a perfect opportunity for us to have an intro call with the prospect and just kind of go over what we're looking to do. And kind of the profile of our customers and where we see we get the biggest fit is, basically on the carts that we support. But we're really strong in fashion, beauty, home, furniture, automotive, outdoor sports. These are really strong for us, and we've got a lot of the customizations kind of figured out. We can deploy pretty quickly. This isn't the fastest because we're touching your checkout. It's probably I'll call it 3 to 4 weeks of actual kind of back end work, but most of what we see in the time frame to get deployed is just testing. So the lift becomes more around just hey, once we've deployed this, let's make sure that we've gone through all our corner cases. And some of the things we've done with, one of the reasons that Casper chose that deployment methodology is it eliminated a lot of things to test because we weren't touching shipping and some of the other unique things, allowed them a faster time once they started the project to get deployed. So I'll stop there. Are there any questions? And sorry, I didn't have the chat last time I was running through the initial part of my kind of overview. So I'll stop there. Questions around kind of profile of fit, the customers that we're looking at. I know there's some really strong customers of yours that are out there that could be potential fits for this, and just be interested to hear if there's any feedback, questions, concerns.
I have a question that just came to mind. So one theme that is coming up more and more often with the impending death of the third-party cookie that keeps getting postponed but will come eventually is how merchants can get more either first-party or third-party data somehow through their integrations. And what strikes me as an interesting opportunity is the fact that Bolt is sitting on a lot of information about the customers in your network, their shopping history, their shopping preferences, and so on. And so I was wondering if there is a world, even in the future, where Bolt can potentially be positioned as a way to offer a more personalized shopping experience, even to first-time users that have never shopped with you or visited your website.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a bit further out, but the whole thought process of where we think about taking this is, the Bolt shopper eventually, I mean, they have it today where you opt in, opt out, but there is a view where we start to allow that shopper to pick sites they want to interact with, or a more customized experience upon landing, specific things that we could potentially share. So what you just described is sort of where we end up likely taking this once we sort of get kind of mass with the shoppers. That's kind of stage 2 of making this a great experience for the shopper, where I land on a site I've never been at and it says, hey Phil, I know you like golf stuff, here are shirts that you would probably like. Because quite frankly, when I land on certain sites, I don't want to be pitched hunting and gaming stuff. I just don't do it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's so, but if they pointed me in the right direction. So that's some of the things we're learning about and thinking about. And I guess, Wayne, maybe talk a little bit about Shopper Assistant, because I think that plays that gives you kind of we're doing some of it today, but it's not cross-pollinated yet, but we can do some of that stuff on the existing sites.
Absolutely, Phil. Yeah. So that's the exact idea that we want to work towards too, right? So the shopper assistance idea is that even when it gets shopper links on the site, there's a little assistant bot looking things, right? From the shopper experience perspective, right? That appears. The idea there is that there's 2 things. Number one, the merchants can provide incentives for the shopper to create an account, right? So that's number one. Number 2 is for the shoppers, for the merchants to be able to show recommended products. Now, current stage, it's more recommended products, right, based on the merchant's own selection, if you will. But we do understand that with past purchasing behavior data, we are able to provide more data for the merchants to be able to choose those items in a more smart way. But that will be down the future, right? But right now, it's more, like I said, right? It's more the ability to show the incentive as well as items that the merchant currently picks. But in the future, what we want to go towards is how do we harness all this purchasing behavior data, right? Certainly, we're not going to pass, merchant A's order data to merchant B, but how do we aggregate data to be able to show, actionable insights to the merchant so that they can then choose those items more smartly?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Perfect.
Right. And I just pasted a couple of I just copy and paste a couple pages to the questions earlier, one on address validation and one on alternate payment methods in the chat. So feel free to take a look and definitely reach out if there are any questions.
All right. I think that's it. Unless Bolt team, unless you had anything else.
No, that's great. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Nice to meet everyone.
Thank you guys so much for your time. Great question. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks
so much,
Alessandro.
guys.
Much appreciated.
Thank you so much for your time. And thanks everyone for attending.
Bye.
See you soon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.